Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
President Trump landed last night for the start of his second state visit to Britain, even as the UK hopes that a banquet with the King, lots of pomp, a carriage procession through Windsor Castle and the estate there, and a meeting at Chequers with the Prime Minister will result in investment deals, some of which have already been announced. Keir Starmer's government has quietly dropped talks to try to lower the 25% US import levy on UK steel. Joining us now is Mark Lyall Grant, who's former UK ambassador to the UN and also former National Security Advisor to the then Prime Minister 2015 to 2017, and joins us now. Mark, good morning.
Morning, Caroline.
Lovely to speak to you. Your service as National Security Advisor, it overlapped with the beginning of President Trump's first presidency, and back then you were advising Theresa May. What would you be advising Prime Minister Keir Starmer ahead of this visit now?
Well, I think this visit is a good opportunity for Keir Starmer. He's had a difficult couple of weeks with high-level resignations from his inner team, including just recently the British ambassador to Washington. So he will want, I think, a number of things from this visit. He'll want a distraction from some of his domestic concerns. He'll want President Trump to be impressed by the sort of pomp and circumstances of the royal engagement with the president. And he will want some specific things, particularly on trade and investment, some of which have already been announced, as you mentioned. So it's a high event, a high profile event, both for President Trump, but also for Keir Starmer.
So high profile, but is it also high risk? Is the UK making a mistake by aligning itself so closely to the US versus other allies when we see other countries taking a different path?
No, I don't think so. I mean, when I was National Security Advisor, as you mentioned, during the Trump first term, we did have a discussion about, was this going to be particularly awkward? There were going to be policy differences, but the overwhelming view was that America's our most important ally. It's absolutely essential for us in terms of security, intelligence, nuclear defense, etc. And the best way to deal with any US president is to hug him close. And that goes for President Trump just as much as any other American president. Now, of course, in his first term, there was a conservative government in the UK and a sort of slightly chaotic, to say the least, Trump administration in Washington. This time you've got a more organised and more vigorous Trump administration and a Labour government in London. So, of course, there are going to be some significant policy differences, and some of those will be aired over the next couple of days, particularly on the Middle East, but perhaps also on Ukraine and issues like free speech. But nonetheless, the same principle applies, that we are America's best ally and America is our most important ally as well. So there has to be a close bilateral relationship.
Of course, but hugging the United States close also does mean quite significant intervention by the US in domestic UK politics. I mean, notably Elon Musk giving significant support to the Unite the Kingdom march over the weekend, which was organised by Tommy Robinson. And talking about violence is coming to you, you either fight back or you die. I mean, the Starmer government had to condemn that kind of inflammatory statement. Does it concern you? Should the UK be concerned about the threat of political interference?
I don't think so particularly, no. I mean, Elon Musk is no longer associated with the administration after all, and President Trump himself, in the run-up to this visit, has been very careful not to criticise the UK or the British government in any way. And that, again, is different from his last state visit, when he did issue a press interview that was actually rather critical of Theresa May at the time, I recall. So I think he'll be very careful, and I don't think the Elon Musk stuff will interfere. But I think there will be some nervousness tomorrow, because tomorrow is the political day and there will be a joint press conference between Keir Starmer and Donald Trump. And in a press conference, there's no doubt that journalists are going to be pressing both men on issues that divide them. That's what happens at these press conferences. And so I think there'll be a lot of questions about Mandelson. There'll be a lot of questions about free speech and trying to drive wedges between the two men. And of course, with President Trump, one never knows exactly what he's going to do in response. So there'll be some nervousness in London about how that goes tomorrow.
What do you think is the biggest risk facing Keir Starmer in this visit?
Well, I think that is the biggest risk, the press conference. You know, the two men get on surprisingly well. We've seen from meetings in the White House, meetings in Scotland this year already. So I don't think there's any sort of personal issue between them. And it's always worth noting on these occasions that President Trump is a natural, instinctive Anglophile. For the obvious reasons, his mother was born in Scotland, you know, his love of the royal family, the golf, all that sort of thing. And that was not the case with Joe Biden for sort of Irish reasons. And it was not the case for Barack Obama for sort of Kenya-related reasons. So for the first time for a while, we do have an Anglophile, naturally Anglophile president in the White House. And that does make a difference on these sorts of occasions.
Putin is seen as a mounting military threat to NATO and to Europe. Do you think that Starmer will try to get Trump to take a harder line on Putin? Is that really an avenue, you know, that would bear fruit?
Well, it may not bear fruit, but I'm sure he will try, because the Europeans, all European governments have been deeply disappointed by President Trump's approach to Putin. The fact that he's promised tougher measures, tougher sanctions on numerous occasions in recent months and hasn't delivered, and seems to be very averse to taking a tougher line with Putin, or indeed admitting sort of openly that Putin is solely responsible for this conflict in Ukraine. So I think that will certainly be an item on the agenda for discussion tomorrow.
Does Keir Starmer have a better chance, given the predilections of the president, as he noted, towards the UK? Does he have a better chance than other European leaders in getting Trump to do more when it comes to Russia and Ukraine?
I think he does. I think we've seen that in the sort of 8 months of the Trump presidency so far, that he does have an avenue of influence with President Trump. I don't say it's completely unique. I mean, others have different ins, like the Finnish president plays golf, etc. But nonetheless, I think the closeness of the bilateral relationship is very different from the sort of relationship that President Trump has with the French leader, the German leader, and others. So I think that does give him a certain opportunity to exert influence on these big policy issues like Ukraine and indeed the Middle East.